Alright, Hacksters, we are here to talk about switches, and we're going to do that using these 3 examples and also a cool rundown from SparkFun. So, when you're looking at how to control your circuit, right, you have a number of options. This comes in really handy when you're designing a lighting circuit for your bike or skateboard or like bar or house or whatever. And to get through all that, we're going to need to learn a little bit of terminology. There are 2 words we need to know. Pull and throw. And mashing these words together with numbers creates these acronyms that you use. They describe switches, and when you're ordering a bunch of something, you want to know what you're getting. So the most basic type of switch is a single pole, single throw switch, which is also what most buttons are. The number of poles means the number of separate circuits that the switch can control. If you have multiple poles, then it basically means that you're controlling several circuits at a time that are independent from each other. So a button or a basic toggle switch with 2 connections is a single pole switch, and it's single throw because it only has 2 connections going to it. It's either closed and the circuit is connected, or open and the circuit is not connected. This could be a toggle switch like the one that's pictured here, or a button like this fella, or something like a limit switch. You'll also hear a button called a momentary switch or a tactile switch sometimes. And yeah, it usually has just 2 connections on here, though some buttons come with 4 connections and they're paired off, so each pair of contacts is connected. Next up in complexity, you have the single pole double throw switch, or dual throw. This switch has 3 pins, as you'll notice, but only has 2 positions. So basically you're connecting this middle pin to either of the 2 other outside pins. That can mean, for example, that you're routing power from the middle pin to either one of 2 different circuits, or if you only have one of those outside pins connected to something, it's either on, and those are connected, or off, and they're disconnected. This is a single pole double throw switch because it's only controlling one circuit connected to this middle guy here, but it has 2 options for how to route it. Let's take a look at how that looks in a circuit diagram. Whereas before you have simply an open or closed circuit, now you have 2 options to choose between, and the pins going into it are also known as terminals or contacts. You'll often see these as toggle switches as well. And sometimes the toggle switch can have a non-connected middle mode and then switch to either one. That's a little more rare. Next up, let's look at this. This diagram shows a double pole double throw switch. That means that it has basically 2 of these guys next to each other, controlled by a single switch. So they're both switched the same way at the same time. It has 6 terminals because it's double throw. If it were a double pole single throw switch, then that'd basically be like 2 buttons glued together, right? And a simple on or off, but 2 of them at the same time. Double pole double throw means that you have 2 of these single pole double throw switches, which have 2 options. And so they have 3 pins. So it has 6 terminals. What I have here is a beastly triple pole double throw switch. That means I have 3 of these single pole double throw switches side by side. Triple pole double throw. So when I move this toggle switch this way, each pair of these 2 pins, that's 3 pairs of pins, are connected to each other, but not to the other circuits. And then when I push it this way, these 3 pairs of pins are closed. So I'll be using this to switch 2 separate LED strips power sources on and off. They have 2 separate power sources, both of which are 9-volt batteries, but one of them is going to go to my red-only tail light, and the other one is going to the rest of the bike. That means that even if the battery for the rest of the bike fails because it's using a lot more battery, the safety lights on the back will still function. Besides that, I'm also going to put this in series with the ground wire, and that's going to enable me to switch between 2 different colors. So if I push it one way, I'm going to connect the green and blue channels on the LED strip, and if I push it the other way, it's going to connect the red channel. So it's a pretty complex circuit, but it's made up of really easy parts. Lucky for you, I also brought along a demo, which is my old Glowmobile skateboard. 10 nerd points if you can name all of the organizations on here. But it has basically this exact control system on it. It's hard to see the mess of wires in here because it's all sheathed in layers of hot glue to keep it sturdy and waterproof on the very slimy streets of San Francisco. It's got a 9-volt power source in this box, and then it has another switch that is toggling the color. In this case, the power switch is directly on the battery pack itself, because this is only controlling one circuit, which is 2 LED strips run in parallel. However, the ground wire goes directly from the battery to the middle pin of this switch. And then your two other side pins go respectively to the blue channel and the green channel on the LEDs. And each of those is split into two because there's two LED strips. And finally, just to make it crystal clear, I want to visualize this for you. So we have our power source over here, and we have our LED strip over here. And this has red, green, and blue channels. The power source itself has a switch in it that can be open or closed, and that's the main switch on the battery pack. Then the ground comes in over here, and it has two options. Go to green or go to blue. However, since there's two strips, there's another one over here. And while this sneaks over to power both of them, each of these guys also splits. And that's the basic wiring diagram for this. Two separate toggle switches. This could be just a regular single pole, single throw switch, as long as it's a toggle switch that stays where it's put and not a momentary switch that releases as soon as you let go. And then this guy has to be a single pole double throw switch. It's a switch that connects a central pin attached to ground to either of two other contacts, that being green or blue. Hope this helps you understand switches, or at least the terminology behind them. I do encourage you to check out the SparkFun tutorial written by Jimbo. They have a really great explanation that I think helps a lot. Shine on!